Welcome to the last Just Asia for 2015. These are the headlines. Sri Lankan torture victim said, "They broke my leg, but not my spirit," as he reactivates the Torture Act No. 22 of 1994 against the perpetrators 10 years later. Intermarriage, last frontier in combat against caste discrimination in Nepal. Dalit activist speaks out. AHRC and partners hold workshop in Indonesia with victims and human rights defenders. Just Asia speaks with one of the participants. And finally, a New Year's message on human rights in Asia from Basil Fernando, Director for Policy and Programs at the Asian Human Rights Commission. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Josefina Bergston. We start in Sri Lanka and a report of the long struggle for justice of a torture survivor. After years of fighting, Rohita Liyange were finally able to use the Torture Act No. 22 of 1994 to indict his torture perpetrators and see them tried for their crime. The Human Rights Office in Kandy and the Asian Human Rights Commission have engaged in a national and international campaign against torture and for the punishment of the two accused police officers, R.M. Nihal Rajapaksa and W.M. Balasurya, who severely tortured Rohita Liyange and his brother-in-law Sarat Bandara in July 2005 by beating them with iron rods. Rohita's right leg was broken in 5 places at the end of the torture. When the police officers realized the seriousness of the injuries they had inflicted on the victim, they attempted to protect themselves against allegations of torture by getting themselves admitted to hospital and make fabricated charges against the two victims for allegedly attacking them. As a result of the campaign by the Human Rights Office, AHRC, and the victims, the Attorney General's Department eventually withdrew the fabricated charges against the victims, and the police officers were indicted under the Torture Act. After many years where no torture perpetrators from police or the armed forces were indicted nor sentenced during the previous regime, as a reward for assisting the armed forces during the Civil War, the Torture Act No. 22 of 1994 is once again used to punish perpetrators and give justice to torture victims in Sri Lanka. After 4 surgeries, Rohita was able to once again stand on his broken leg and get around with the help of a walking stick. Over the years, Rohita was often threatened by the police officers who operated with impunity under the previous regime, but he was consistent in seeking justice and redress. Today, after 10 long years, while Rohita still has to use the walking stick, the family is finally back on their feet. Rohita and his family are proud to have persevered and to finally receive justice, punishing the perpetrators, and are calling out on all victims of torture to break the silence and be a voice for justice. As reported over the last 2 weeks, Just Asia spent time in Nepal, which has had a difficult year. The earthquake in April devastated vast areas of the country, and an unofficial fuel blockade with India and Emadasis in the southern Terai region since September has made daily life a struggle for almost everyone in the country. One longer-term issue that has long scuppered the full development of Nepal is persistent caste discrimination that still lingers both in urban and rural areas. Dalits are still often rejected in all sorts of contexts, whether it comes to work, housing, access to the village water pump, or to the temple. But perhaps the most persistent of all is the taboo of marriage between a Dalit and a higher caste person. Many more progressive Nepalis born into higher castes have no real problem in their daily interactions with Dalits, at work or in the street or in the village life. But the real test of having fully rejected caste divisions comes when their child wants to marry a Dalit. Overcoming this last taboo is often a challenge to this day. Here is AHRC's Shiva Hari Gyawali, who often works on caste discrimination issues in Nepal.
Still, Nepal caste issue is very serious problem. Even urban area, many people from upper caste community, they even they didn't accept water, food from Dalit community. Intercaste marriage is getting more violent, and more many couple are forced to divorce, and they are displaced. The acceptance of intercaste marriage is very low. Even we can see many leaders who are involving in social movement, they say we are accepting intercaste marriage. They in their speech they can say there is no caste in my home, but reality is totally different. Still now they are discriminating Dalit people. Many urban area educated people accept don't obey the caste system. They are against the caste system, but they can stay, they can read, write, play with Dalits, they can enjoy with Dalits. But when the situation come marrying with Dalit, they are not agree. I am working for Dalit community and Dalit movement. Even I heard many times some people say that he is also from Dalit community, so he is working for Dalit. That's the mindset. Only Dalits should work for their rights. They never think that caste system is our national problem, therefore we must talk against the caste system. They never feel that. They only feel the duty to speak against the caste system, only the duty of Dalits. But it's our also national problem, so we all speak against the caste system.
Just Asia now turns to Indonesia, where the Asian Human Rights Commission, along with its local partner in Indonesia, organized 2 workshop follow-up programs with human rights defenders. The workshops are connected with the Asian Alliance Against Torture and Ill Treatment, which encourages Asian parliamentarians to work to protect human rights and reform justice institutions in their countries. The first meeting took place in Talang Sari of Lampung province between December 6 and 7. The participants consisted of victims, land rights defenders, and farmers. In the meeting, the participants debated effective ways to advocate against impunity and torture, which is routine in the province. The second workshop took place in Jakarta between December 16 and 17. The participants here were victims, human rights defenders, and students, and they came from provinces far and wide in Indonesia, such as Papua and Sulawesi Island. One of the participants in the workshop in Talang Sari, Mr. Mudi, who is a survivor of the infamous Talang Sari massacre in 1989, shared with Just Asia how the trauma has affected his life. Hundreds of people were killed, injured, or disappeared in the Talang Sari massacre when the military attacked the area. The massacre was aimed at crushing dissident groups that had been labeled as communist Islamist. Here is Mr. Mudi.
Saya di sinilah, di Gaduh inilah saya ditangkap anggota Koramil tahun 89. Saya habis mengunjungi pengajian di musola Talang Sari. Di sini saya ditangkap bersama 4 teman kami, ya, umuran 15 tahun. Biar dunia tahu bahwa semenjak saya diculik di Gaduh inilah hak-hak untuk hidup saya terbatasi, untuk melanjutkan cita-cita saya buntu, untuk berusaha juga buntu, dan kami sekarang melakukan penuntutan atas penculikan pada kami ke penjuru lembaga-lembaga kemanusiaan.
Lastly, in this final episode of Just Asia in 2015, here is Basil Fernando, Asian Human Rights Commission's Director for Policy and Programs, with a final message about human rights in Asia.
From the human rights point of view, 2015 was on the one hand a period of a lot of difficulties, but at the same time very strong fight by people throughout the world and particularly also in Asia, trying to expand their rights, to assert their rights. So 2015 has left a very strong legacy. Now as we enter the 2016, it is very important to begin this year with firm determination that the priority above everything else is human rights, and without that basic respect for human rights, we are merely inviting the worst side of humanity, all kinds of cruelties and which is completely inappropriate for the 21st century. So it is time to give the human rights the priority it requires, and this is also called for the UN and others to be much more assertive and to ensure that irrespective of whoever that obstructs, that the message of human rights should be stressed and brought as a priority for the year. 2016, when we look back at the end of the year, should be a year in which we raise the standards of human rights and stood for a very important crucial period where there is too much of entry into the war, and too much of violence is being heard everywhere, and too much of misery for the poorest people in the world. This must also be a year of greater recognition of the refugees. The floods of refugees that are coming to the developed countries is only a sign of extremely bad things that are happening in these countries. Also, as the Millennium Goals are being developed further to enhance the rights of the poor and to fight for the better standards, we also hope that these aims will also be pursued much more vigorously.
That is all for Just Asia this year. We will take a break for a couple of weeks and be back in early 2016. To find out more about human rights issues in Asia, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next year.